Hello, and welcome to this session on must-do sets for CAT LRDI preparation. Whether you are just starting your CAT preparation or you're revising for the upcoming CAT examination, these are sets which you should not be missing out on. In today's session, we'll be looking at caselets. Now, caselets have a lot of application across CAT. Anything can be classified as caselet. Anything which you don't understand as a question can be classified as caselets. But if we were to look at a slightly more optimized definition of what caselets will be, most of the time you'll have a caselet where you have very little information which is given to you. Usually you have missing values, incomplete values, no figures, no diagrams. Most of the time, some of the caselets do come up with some diagrams as well. You have applications of calculation as well as some amount of logical reasoning. So it cannot be classified either as a pure DI set or a pure reasoning set as well. And most of these questions usually end up with a case where you have optimization, max, min sort of scenario. So you'll have multiple cases. So multiple scenarios which will be possible in that particular set. So that's broadly what you will call a caselet as such. Let's get on with this. If you are running short of time, obviously you can skip to the relevant sets. Each of the videos which you'll be releasing will have links available in the description where if you click on it, you can skip to the relevant set. An ATM dispenses exactly 5,000 per withdrawal using 100, 200 and 500 rupee notes. So the total amount is 5,000. You'll have some 500 rupee notes, some 200 rupee notes, some 100 rupee notes. Now, if you are clear with optimization, as I increase the number of 500 rupee notes, the number of 200 and 100 rupee notes will decrease. And overall, the number of notes will also decrease because 500 is a very high denomination. Let's take a simple example. Suppose I have 10 500 rupee notes. 5,000 is done. If I take 9 500 rupee notes, right, that is 4,500. I can do 2 and 1. I can do 1 and 3. Or I can do 0 and 5. As I reduce the number of 500 and 200 rupee notes, number of 100 rupee notes will increase because the total amount remains the same, right? So the total number of notes will keep on increasing. So if I have to increase the number of notes, I'll reduce 500 rupee notes and increase 100 rupee notes. If I have to reduce the number of notes, I will reduce the 200 and 100 rupee notes and increase the number of 500 rupee notes. This is the key part in solving these questions. Let's go on a case-to-case basis and try to solve them. Okay, first one. How many different ways? Okay, there is something further in the question. Okay, the ATM requires every customer to give a preference to one of the three denominations, right? So you can choose either 100 rupee notes as a preference, 200 rupee notes as a preference, or 500 rupee notes as a preference, right? It then dispenses notes such that the number of notes of the customer's preferred denomination exceeds the total number of notes of the other denominations. Which means if I say my preference is 500, I will try to give majority of the notes will be 500. It cannot be equal to the others. It has to be more. So in this case, 500 is your preference. In this case, 500 is your preference. On the other hand, if you do something like this is also 5,000 rupees. 100 is your preference, right? 100 is your preference because you have more number of 100 rupee notes than 500 rupee notes, right? But this also is 5,000. Here, 100 cannot be a preference, 500 cannot be a preference because 8 is not greater than the other two. Similarly, 8 is not greater than the other two. The number of your preferred denomination should exceed the total notes of the other denominations. Right? Okay, now let's proceed to the questions. Okay, how many different ways can an ATM serve the customer who gives 500 rupee notes as her preference? So my preference is 500 rupee notes. Okay, easiest way out is 10, 0, 0. That's 10 notes. 5,000 is done. If I use 9, I can do 2, 1, 1, 3, 0, 5. This is possible, right? All these cases, in this case, you have 12 notes. Here you have 13 notes. Here you have 14 notes. Still 9 is the preferred. If I start with 8, right? Least possible will be 2,000. So 5, 0, 13 notes. I can have 4, 2, 14 notes. 3, 4, 15 notes. Now 2, 8, sorry, 2, 6 will not be a preference, because here 2 plus 6 is 8, which is same as the number of these nodes. So this is not possible. Okay, anything lesser is not possible. If I start with 7, 3500, so I can do 7, 1, not possible. So these are the only ways possible. The moment I go below 8 notes, either number of 200 or 100 rupee notes, or the sum of them will be higher than the number of 500 rupee notes. So these are the only ways possible. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 possible ways. Okay, let's try the next one. If ATMs could serve only 10 customers with a stock of 50 500 rupee notes, so you have 50 500 rupee notes, what is the maximum number of customers among those 10 who could have given 500 rupee notes as their preference? Right? Now I want to serve as many customers as possible with 500 rupee notes as a preference, but I have only 50 notes, which means I need to give as few to a customer as possible. Right? See, if I give 10 notes per customer, I will exhaust this 50 notes in just 5 customers. If I give 9 notes per customer, I can go up to 5.5. Again, I can do only 5. But if I give 8 notes per customer, I can go up to 6.2. I can serve a 6th customer, right? So maximum possible customers will be 6. Okay. Question 3. What is the maximum number of customers that the ATM can serve with a stock of 50 500 rupee notes? Again, you have 50 500 rupee notes and a sufficient number of notes of other denominations. If all the customers are to be served with at most 20 notes per withdrawal. Now, the restriction is not a preference. Okay, I want to serve with at most 20 notes, right? I can use only 20 notes, right? And I have a stock of only 50 500 rupee notes, right? So let's see what goes on with this. If we go back to the previous one again, here you have already reached 15. If I continue with this, 2 and 6, this will be 16. If I take 3 and if I take 1 and 8, that will be 17. And if we take 0 and 10, that will be 18. Now, if I reduce the number of 500 rupee notes, say to 7, how many notes will I need? I will need 7 and 1. That is 15 notes, right? This will be 20. If I go with 6 notes, the minimum number of notes required will be 3000. So 3000 balance is 2000. So I can do it with 10 notes, that is 16 notes. With 5, that's 2500. I can do it with 12 and 1. That's 17, 18 notes. This is also possible. If I take 4, I can do 2000. This will be 2000, right? So I can do 15. So this will be 19 notes, right? So with 19 notes I can do. If I use only 3 notes, I will need at least 3500. So 17 and 1. This is 21. No, this is not possible. So this is your best scenario. As little notes as possible. Also as little 500 rupee notes as possible per person. So I can use just 4 500 rupee notes per person. Less than 20 notes. And still serve customers. Right? So how many customers can I serve? 50 divided by 4. That's 12 point something. So 12 will be your correct answer. And the last question in this set, what is the number of 500 rupee notes required to serve 50 customers with 500 rupee notes as their preference and 50 customers with 100 rupee notes as their preference? Okay, number of notes dispensed should be as little as possible, right? So 500 rupee note that we had done already, 10, right? So that gives you a total amount of 5000. So to serve 50 customers, you will need 10 into 50, 500 rupee notes. Okay, now you want 100 rupee notes as a preference, but I want as little notes to be dispensed as possible. Now, if I use 9 and try to fill the balance with 100, I'll need 5. 100 is not the preference. This is not possible. If I use 8, that's 4000, 10. Here 100 is the preference, right? This is possible, right? So in this case, I need 8 500 rupee notes. That's 400. Total will be 900 notes. Option 1 is your correct choice, right? So it's not an easy question, but the key point here to solve this was the optimization principle. If you know this optimization principle, then you can solve questions in a moderate manner. It's not very difficult. It's not very easy. It's definitely not easy. It's a moderate to moderate difficult sort of a question. In an actual exam situation, it will probably take you about 9 odd minutes, 9 to 10 minutes to solve this. That completes this particular set. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video. Now this set says Ramesh and Suresh are 2 vegetable vendors who sell tomatoes at the Margam Municipal Market. Okay. Each day Ramesh and Suresh get their tomatoes from the respective suppliers. Ramesh's supplier provides him tomatoes in bags, which each weighing 200 kilos. So Ramesh's lot size is 200 kilos. This is Ramesh. Right, and it costs him 3000 rupees. Right, Suresh's supplier provides him tomatoes weighing 20 kilos each. Okay, this is Suresh. That's his lot size is 20 kilos. He can buy only in 20 kilos and costs him 500 rupees. Okay. As per the municipal market regulations, the tomatoes must be sold at 30 rupees per kilo. Okay, so your selling price is 30 rupees per kilo. Okay. The vendors can sell any quantity of tomatoes to as many customers as long as the quantity sold is natural number. Okay, so Ramesh basically he can sell 1 kilo out of this, 15 kilo out of this, 150 kilos out of it, 147 kilos out of it. He can sell 199 kilos. If he has to sell 201 kilos, he will have to get 2 bags. 2 bags, right? Similarly, if Suresh has to sell 23 kilos, he'll have to get 2 bags. If he wants to sell 47 kilos, he has to get 3 bags, right? So that is what we need. But what it says is that it has to be a natural number. So Ramesh cannot sell 95.6 kilos. Right, he has to sell either 96 or 95. He cannot sell 95.6. Okay. At the end of each day, all leftover tomatoes. Yeah. So if some of the tomatoes are not sold from the bag, right, they have to be disposed at the market only. For the disposal of these unsold tomatoes, the market administration charges 5 rupees per kilo. So the disposal charges are 5 rupees per kilo. Operating profit is the total revenue from the sales of tomatoes less the costs of acquiring from their suppliers and the disposal of the unsold tomatoes. Okay, so revenue will be profit is revenue minus costs. Costs are cost of this bags, right, and disposal, which is 5 rupees per kilo for unsold tomatoes. Now if you look at the questions, everything is what is the combined profit on a particular day. Additional information is given on a particular day, blah blah blah. What is the minimum? Again, this is maximum and this is the minimum quantity. So everything has additional cases involved. Okay, so let's first figure out how the profit curve is going to look at for both of them. Now there are three parts to the profit. Profit is sales. Then you have cost of your acquiring the tomatoes, which is in bags, right? This is the cost of raw material. And then you have the disposal cost, which is 5 rupees per kilo. Now, if they are able to sell the entire batch of tomatoes, right, their disposal cost will be 0. So that will be the maximum profit for each bag. Maximum profit for each bag. What will be the maximum profit for Ramesh? Ramesh is 200 kilos at 3,000 rupees. So his total cost will be 3,000. If he's able to sell all the tomatoes, he will not have any disposal cost. Right. What will be his total sales? 200 into 30. That's 6,000. So balance will be 3,000. Right. So for each bag, if he sells it completely, his total profit will be 3,000 rupees. Right. Now what happens if he sells only one? If he sells only 1 kilogram of tomatoes, right? His sales are going to be only 30 rupees. Right. What will be his cost? 3,000 will still remain the same. 3,000. Right. What will be the disposal? Disposal, he will have to spend 5 rupees per kilo for 199 kilos. Right. 200 into 5 is 1,000. So 199 into 5 will be 995. So his total sales is 30. His total cost will be 3995. His net loss will be minus 3965. Right. So his profit equation will look something like this. Right. So he makes 3,000 rupees. He makes 3,000 rupees if he sells the full bag. Right. But if he sells only 1 kilo of tomatoes, he's going to lose 3965. Now, and for each kilo sold extra, he's going to make additional profit. How much extra profit is going to make? He makes profit in two ways. One is he gets 1 more kilo of sales. That's 30 rupees. And he has to dispose 1 kilo lesser. So he saves another 5 rupees. So he should ideally be saving. He'll be increasing the sales by 35 rupees per kilo. He'll be increasing his sales by 35 rupees per kilo. You can verify it. Suppose he sells 2 kilos. His total sales will be 60 rupees. Cost is 3,000. And this cost will be 198 into 5. That will be 990. So that's 3990 minus 60. That's 3930. 3930 and 3965. It's an increase of 35 rupees. Right? Increase from minus 3965 to minus 3930. So this is Ramesh's cost curve. Like Suresh will have a similar sort of a manner. Suresh will have a similar sort of thing. Suresh will have his highest profit is going to be when he sells a full bag. A full bag will be 30 into 20, 600 rupees. Cost is 500. So his full profit will be 100 rupees per bag. His first loss for 1 tomato, his loss is going to be, how much his loss is going to be? He sells 1, so 30 kilos. He has to incur 500 rupees and he has to dispose 19 kilos of tomatoes. 19 into 5 will be 95. So 595 minus 30, 565. A loss of 565 rupees. And again, his costs will keep on increasing. His sales will also keep on increasing by again 35 rupees. Because for every 1 kilo he extra sells, he will get 30 rupees in sales and 5 kilos he saves for disposal cost. So again, 535. You can again verify it like this. Right. Now, what does this actually tell you? Suppose Ramesh has to sell more than 200 kilos. Right. So if he from 0 to 200 kilos, he starts from a profit of 0 rupees. Right. So this block goes like this, as is described here. But when he starts for 201 kilos, suppose 201 onwards, right? 200, his profit is 3,000. Right, his profit is 3,000. From this, the block will start again. Right, so the 201st kilogram will hit a loss of minus 3965, so it will drop again, and then it will rise up again to an additional 3,000. So at 400 kilos, he's going to make 6,000 rupees of profit. Right, so from 401 onwards, again he will stare at this curve again. Right, so he'll again lose minus 3965 and then keep on rising. Similarly, this will keep on going again and again. Same with Suresh. Suresh's cycle is 20. So after every 20, it will reset, right? And the profit start, the next one will dip by 565 and then keep on rising. So basically, this is what we have from this information. Now let's go to the questions one by one and try to solve them. So I have written this now on little neatly. Okay. First one. On a particular day, both Ramesh and Suresh sold 328 kilos of tomatoes each. What is the combined profit earned by them? Okay, Ramesh sells 328 kilos. Now, each bag of his contains 200 kilos only. So, to sell 328 kilos, he will have to order 2 bags, right? So, on the first bag, he's going to sell out the first bag. So, he's going to get 3,000 rupees of profit. He's going to get 3,000 rupees of profit on the first bag. Now, on the second bag, right? Out of the 200 kilos, he's going to be able to sell only 128 kilos. How much is he going to make out of it? 128 into 30. That's 84 and 3. So, 84. So, 3840 is going to be his revenue. Right. Now, what is going to be his cost? His cost is going to be 3,000 rupees for the bag, and then the disposal cost, right? From 200, he has sold 128. So he has to dispose 72. 72 into 5, that disposal cost will be 360, right? So his total cost is 3360. His total sales is 3840 from the second bag. So his net profit will be 480. Right, so 3,000 plus 480, it will be 3480 for Ramesh. Right, let's do it for Suresh. Now Suresh gets in bags of 20s. To sell 328 kilos, he will have to get 16 point something. He has to order 17 bags. Right, on the first 16 bags, he's going to make 100 rupees each. That's 1600. Right, 1600. Now on the last bag, right, out of 20 kilos, he's going to be able to sell only 8 kilos. 320 plus 8 is 328. Right. For this, he will earn 240 rupees. Right. He's going to dispose 12. That will cost him 60 rupees. And the total bag costs him 500 rupees. So minus 560 here. So 1600 minus 560 is 1040 plus 240 will be 1280. That's his profit. Right. Combined profit will be this plus 1280. That's 474760 will be the combined profit. Right. Question number 2. On a particular day, Ramesh and Suresh get a large order from a hotel to supply them tomatoes. They decide that the person who makes the greater profit by supplying tomatoes will solely take up the order. If the order was more than 200 kilos and Suresh took up the order, what is the minimum order that the hotel could have placed? Right, now all these values are more than 200. Now you need to place the minimum order. The smallest value is 201. So let's check with 201. Right. Now, to sell 201 kilos, right? To sell 201 kilos, how much will Ramesh earn if he sells 201 kilos? For the first 200 kilos, he's going to earn 3,000 rupees. The next 1 kilo is going to lose 3965. So basically his loss is going to be minus 965. So if he takes up this 201 kilo offer, he's going to lose 965. Right. But I can mark 201 only if Suresh makes a profit in this, right? The one with the greater profit is going to supply, but for that, Suresh should also make a profit, right? If Suresh makes a, let's see what happens at 201 kilos for Suresh, right? So he has to order 201 divided by 20. That's 10 point something, or 11 bags he has to order. On the first 10 bags, he's going to make 10 into 100. That's 1000 rupees of profit, right? On the last bag, he's going to be able to sell only 1 kilo, right? So he's going to lose 565. But he's still in a profit, 435 rupees of profit. So Suresh is going to make a profit, right? So at 201 kilos, right, Suresh will make a higher profit than Ramesh. Why? Because that 1 extra kilo bumps up Ramesh's, bumps up his losses. I mean, it really shatters him because entire 199 kilos has to be wasted. Whereas Suresh is going to waste only 19 kilos over here. Now, question number 3 is very similar to the previous one, right? On a particular day, both Ramesh and Suresh sell the same quantity of tomatoes, okay? If Suresh made more money than Ramesh, what could be the maximum quantity of tomatoes sold by Suresh? Now, if you look at the previous one, right, at 200 kilos, Suresh's profit was 100 into 20, 100 into 10, which is 1000 rupees. And Ramesh's profit is 3000 rupees. So Ramesh earns a higher profit at 200. But the 1 extra kilo basically smashes his profit down. Alright, 1 extra kilo basically brings his profit down drastically. Right? So at 201 kilos, Suresh is now making more money than Ramesh. Now, the question that is asked here is, if it keeps on happening, you keep on going up and down with Ramesh, at what point, till what point will Suresh make the maximum money? Right. See, Ramesh plays a bigger game, right? His losses are bigger, but his outcome is also bigger. Suresh plays multiple smaller games, right? So his function will keep on going like this. Right, it will rise up slowly, then go up. So it will fall down slowly and then rise up also slowly. Suresh, right? So your question is, after what point, till what point will Suresh be able to make more money than Ramesh? Now let's look at, we know at 200, Ramesh makes more money than Suresh, but at 201, Ramesh is lesser than Suresh, right? Let's see what happens at the next bump. Right, the next big drop for Ramesh will be at 401 kilos. Right, let's see what happens at 400 kilos. At 400 kilos, Ramesh is going to make 3000 into 2, which is 6000 rupees of profit. Suresh is going to make only 20 into 10, which is 2000 rupees of profit. Now, the next 1 kilo is going to bring it down by 3965. So roughly around 2000 something. Whereas Suresh, this will also fall by 565. And for each extra kilo from here on, both of them make the same amount of profit, 35 rupees of profit from here on. Right. So you know, beyond 400, Ramesh is not going to be caught up by Suresh. Suresh cannot catch up with Ramesh. So somewhere between 200 and 400 kilos, right? Suresh is caught up by Ramesh. Till that point, Suresh will make a profit. After that, Ramesh will definitely make a higher profit, because even the drop which Ramesh gets is not good enough to compensate for Suresh. So we need to find out that point till which point Suresh makes a profit. Now, Suresh's biggest profits come at multiples of 20. Right, because just after the multiples of 20, there is a drop, and he has to claw back that entire profit till that stage. Okay, so let's take multiples of 20. Now, at 200, Ramesh and Suresh. Ramesh is going to make a profit of, 3000, and Suresh is going to make a profit of 1000 into 10. So 100 into 10,000. Now let's see what happens at 220. At 220, Suresh will make another 100 rupees of profit. So that will become 1 at 220, Suresh will be 1100. Let's see what Ramesh is going to do. Ramesh is going to sell 20 kilos at Ramesh. Ramesh has to buy another 200 kilos of tomatoes, right? So this entire profit is wiped out in that cost, right? That 3000 is gone, right? Now from the 200 kilos, he's able to sell only 20 kilos. So he's going to get 20 into 30, that's 600 rupees, right? But he has to dispose 180 into 5, which is he's going to spend 900 rupees on disposing, right? So he's going to lose 300 rupees. So at 220, Ramesh is at minus 300, Suresh is at 1100. What happens at 240? At 240, he's going to get another 100 rupees. That is there. How much is Ramesh is going to get? For every kilo from here on, he's going to get 35 rupees extra. So another 20 kilos will save him 700 rupees. So that's 400. He's reached 400. Now at 260 kilos, right? He'll make 1300. He's going to add another 700 to his. So that will be 1100. Right. Now what happens at 280? 280, this will be 1400, whereas he is going to reach 1800. He has overtaken him. Where will be exactly overtaking him? It will be, you can figure out straight away. It will be at 261 kilos. At 261 kilos, basically Suresh suffers a 565 drop, right? So his profit will be 1300 minus this 565. Why? Because he has to incur the cost of the entire bag, right? And the disposal, right? So his profit will be somewhere around 700. This is 735. His profit drops to 735. But Ramesh has already paid for his bag. From now on, the moment he reaches 201, from then on, he's only going to make profit, right? Every kilo that he sells, he's going to keep on making profits. So his profit is only going to increase from here. His profit is actually going to increase by 35 rupees from here. So it will become 1135. So at 261, Ramesh will overtake Suresh. Your question was, till what time Suresh will make more money than Ramesh? Till 260. So your answer will be 260. Till 260, Suresh will make more money than Ramesh. And the last one, the Municipal Market Administration increases the disposal to 8 rupees per kilo of tomatoes. Okay, so now these don't hold, right? Now the cost is 8 rupees per kilo of tomatoes. If both Ramesh and Suresh sell the same quantity of tomatoes and Ramesh made more money than Suresh, what is the minimum quantity sold of tomatoes by Ramesh? Assume that both of them made a profit. Now again, we can use the options and figure out what is that. Ramesh has to make more money than Suresh, selling the least quantity. Okay, let's see what happens at 101 kilos. Okay, now let's work this cycle out. Okay, the profits at 200 and 100 remain the same. Now, because it is 8 rupees per kilo, instead of 35, the rise will be now 38 rupees per kilo. Right? Rise will be now 38 rupees per kilo. Why? Because you make 30 rupees of revenue and 8 rupees of saving because of disposal. Right? But now the drop is also going to be lesser, has to be steeper. The drop will be steeper now. Let's see what happens with the drop. Right? For that one additional kilo, Suresh is going to lose 500 for the bag, right? And then he's going to lose 19 into 8 for the disposal, and he's going to earn 30 rupees. So minus 470, what is this? 19 into 8. 19 into 4 is 76. 76 into 2 is 152. So that's 622. So Ramesh's loss is now 622. starts from 622 and goes on till it becomes a profit of 100. Okay, how much will be, that is Suresh. How much will be Ramesh? Ramesh loses for 199 into 8, that's his disposal cost. Then he's going to lose 3000 rupees for the entire bag, and he's going to make 30 rupees. Okay, 200 into 8 is 1600. 200 into 8 is 1600. So 199 into 8 will be 1600 minus 8, so that's 1592. Minus 1592 plus 30 will be minus 1562. Minus 3000 will be minus 4562. So his loss will start from 4562. His loss is going to start from 622. Okay, so I know this is 4562, this is 622. Now we have the options 101, 118, 121, 122. Let's see what happens at 100 kilos. Right, at 100 kilos, he will make 5 into 100, that's 500 rupees. Then he'll suffer a loss of 622. So he makes minus 122. Right, but this scenario cannot be the case because both of them have to make a profit. So this is out. Okay, now let's see what happens at 120 kilos because that's very close to this. At 120 kilos, right, he is going to make a profit of 6 into 100, 600. 6 lots of 20 kilos each, so 600. Right, how much is he going to make a profit of? Right, so from 4562 at 1, he has increased it by 119. 119 into 38. Right, 109 into 40, even if you take 40, 109, that's only 4,400. So Ramesh does not make a profit at 120. Right, so we can actually calculate this exact value if you want to. Okay, so for 120 kilos, he is going to lose 3,000 for cost. Right, 80 kilos of disposal. So 80 into 30 will be 240. 8 into 30 will be 8 into 80 will be 640. Sorry, that's 640. And 120 into 30 will be 3,600. So is a loss here. So 1600, 3600 minus 3000 is 600. 600 minus 40 is minus 40. So at 120, he is at minus 40 and he is at 600. Now this obviously cannot be the case because when you go down, Ramesh's loss is going to increase and Suresh will also make a loss. Right, now your aim should be both of them should make a profit and you should have Ramesh starting to make more profit. Now at the 121st kilo, when you get that 1 extra kilo, Suresh will suffer a drop. Right, he is going to lose 622. So he is going to be at minus 22. So not profit again. So this is also out. So option D will be your correct choice. Now, if you want to verify, we can stop it here. But if you want to verify, you can try that. From minus 22, he is going to add 38 for the next kilo. So 16 rupees will be his profit. How much is going to be his profit? He is going to add 38 rupees for the 121st kilo and another 38 rupees for the 122nd kilo. So 76 extra, 76 minus 40, his profit will be 36 rupees. You can calculate using this as well, but option D will be your correct choice. Okay, so it's a brilliant question. The last two questions were ultra painful. Obviously, if you use a calculator, you might be able to solve it. But the key point to figure out was basically that you have a sequence of these bumps. Once you have the sequence of these bumps and beyond a point of time, Ramesh will overtake Suresh, right? That was the catch to solve this. Okay, it's a difficult level question. I mean, the first two questions are still moderate to be done, can be done over there, but the last two questions are pretty difficult. And in an exam situation, you might be scared. It might take about 15 minutes and still not make any head or tail out of this if you don't understand how costs and optimization work. A lot of students miss out on good B schools because they simply don't apply and they are ignorant. They don't do any research beyond the IIMs, and they are more worried about their profile and academics, etc., rather than actually getting into a good B schools and making a career in the management field. If you would like personalized B school assistance, all you need to do is fill up the Google document. Link is available in the description of this video, and we'll send you individual B school recommendations which fit your profile and your career aspirations. This question is actually not very difficult as such. It says an old woman had following assets. You have 70 lakhs in bank deposits, one house worth 50 lakhs, 3 flats each worth 30 lakhs. So this is 90 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 70 lakhs. So that's 140, 210 lakhs here. Okay, and certain number of gold coins, each worth 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so you don't know how many coins are there, but the value of each coin is 1 lakh. So 210 plus some gold coins. She wants to distribute her assets among 3 children, Nita, Geeta, and Sita and Geeta. The house, any of the flats, or any of the coins cannot be split. So you cannot take half a house, you cannot take half a flat, you cannot take half a coin. Okay, you cannot sell it and divide it. You have to give the value in full. Okay, so that is the house went entirely to one child, flat to one child, and a gold coin to one child. So the deposits can be split as and when you like it, but the house and the coins cannot be split. Okay, among the 3, Nita received the least amount of bank deposits while Geeta received the highest. The value of the assets distributed was equal among the children, as were the gold coins. Okay, so not only was the total money deposited, not only was the total value divided equal, even the gold coins were divided equally. So let's see what you have. You have bank, you have house, you have flat, and you have gold. Okay, so you have Nita, Sita, and Geeta. Now gold was divided equally. So if you have 3 coins, each of them will give 1 each. If you have 9 coins, each of them will get 3 each. So gold as such is not required here. Gold as such is because it is going to be divided. So the rest of the assets also have to be divided equally. You don't need to check for the gold because it says gold is also divided equally and the total assets are also divided equally. So which means because gold is divided equally and the total assets are divided equally, even these 3 in terms of value will be divided equally. So out of this 210 lakhs, Nita will get 70 lakhs, Sita will get 70 lakhs, and Geeta will get 70 lakhs. Okay, right, in terms of value. Okay, and the gold is divided equally. Now it says Nita received the least amount in bank deposits. This is the least in bank deposits. Geeta received the highest. Okay, right, so we need to check how much did each of them receive. Now if Geeta received as much in bank deposits, okay, it means the value of the other assets will be as low as possible and Nita should get as high as possible for the other assets. Now let's see, if I give 50 lakhs the house to Nita, if I give the house to Nita, the remaining she should get is only 20 lakhs, right? Also, all the 3 flats cannot go to one person because the total value for each person is only 70 lakhs among these 3. Okay, so at most a person will get 2 flats. If a person gets 2 flats, that is 60 lakhs. Okay, the remaining 10 lakhs has to be deposits. Now this is lesser bank deposits than just the house, and we know Nita received the least amount in bank deposits. So 60 lakhs has to be to Nita. So Nita receives 2 flats, which will be worth 60 lakhs. Okay, she will not receive the house. Okay, she will get the bank deposits of 10 lakhs. Okay, now what is left? Leftover are bank deposits of 60 lakhs, a house which is worth 50 lakhs, and one flat which is worth 30 lakhs. Okay, now if Sita gets the flat, she cannot get the house. Okay, the rest has to be through bank deposits, but then Geeta will get the house and she will get lesser bank deposits than Sita. It is given to us very clearly that Sita received the highest in bank deposits. So Sita will get the remaining flat, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs in bank deposits. Sita will get 50 lakhs the house and 20 lakhs in bank deposits. So you can tally 10, 20, 40, that is 70 lakhs, 50 lakhs is here, and 60 and 30, 90 lakhs is here. So this is the distribution which is to be done if we have to satisfy this criteria. Remember, we cannot split the coins, we cannot split the each of the assets, we cannot sell the value. Okay, the full value, one person will get the full flat. The value is 50 lakhs and he can sell it whatever he can, but that full flat, the full house has to be given to one single person. So if this has to be done with the given criteria, this will be the distribution. Now let's see what we can get out of this. First one says, how much did Sita receive in bank deposits? Sita will get 20 lakhs in bank deposits, option 3. Okay. How many flats did Neeta receive? Neeta received 2 flats. Neeta received 2 flats. Okay, so these are 2 of the 4 questions. Let's look at the other 2. Okay, same question. Okay, but now it says the value of assets distributed among Neeta, Sita and Geeta was in the ratio 1:2:3, while the gold coins were divided in the ratio 2:3:4. Okay, so we have Neeta, Sita, Geeta. So total assets will contain these parts, the deposits, the house, the flats, and the gold. Now the gold comes into picture. Okay, because there's a distribution of gold also. The ratio of distribution of gold among Neeta, Sita, Geeta is 2:3:4, and the total assets are divided in the ratio 1:2:3. Okay, so you have bank, house and flat. Bank is worth 70 lakhs, house is worth 50, flats is 3:30. Okay, now it says one child got all 3 flats. Okay, so one child got 90 lakhs as assets. She did not get the house. One child other than Geeta got 30 lakhs in bank deposit. So we need to take care of this. Okay, now it says how many gold coins did the old woman have? How much did Geeta get in bank deposits? Now one way is we can try to calculate a value using ratios, but instead of doing that, let's just use the options. Your options are 72, 90, 180 and 216. This is the value of the gold coins in lakhs because each coin is worth 1 lakh. Now we know these 3 add up to 210 lakhs. Okay, now if the gold was 72 lakhs, okay, the total value will be 282 lakhs. Now if I have to split 282 lakhs in the ratio 1:2:3, Geeta will get half of this, that will be 141. Neeta will get 1/3 of 1 is 1/3 of 3, so 1/3 of 141 is 47, and this one will be double of this, which is 94. Okay, and in terms of gold is split in the ratio 2:3:4. So the 72 is split in the ratio 2:3:4. So 1/9. So 2/9 will be 8 to the 16. This value will be 8 3s are 24, and this will be 8 4s are 32. Okay, so this is the value of gold. So in terms of assets, this person will receive 109, this person will receive 70, and this person will receive 16, this will be 31. Now Geeta receives one person received all the 3 flats. All the 3 flats cannot be given to Neeta, cannot be given to Sita. It has to be given to Geeta. Right? So 90 in the balance will be in terms of bank deposits. Now Sita will have to get the house 50 and she'll get 20 lakhs in deposits. Nobody will get 30 lakhs in bank deposits because all the remaining deposits will come to Neeta. Neeta will not get either a flat or the house. So everything is in terms of bank deposits. Now this does not satisfy this criteria. 72 cannot be an answer. Okay, let's see if 90 will work. Okay, let's see if 90 will work. We'll just remove all this. Okay, now if I take 90 here, this number will become 300. Split will be 1/2 will be 150. This will be 50. This will be 100. Okay, this is 90. This will be 40, 30, 20. So value will be 30. This will be 70, and this will be 110. Again, the flat will go to Geeta. So 90, 20 lakhs will be her deposits. She cannot get the house, so she will get the house. So this will be 20. All her 30 lakhs will be in terms of in terms of bank deposits. This is Neeta. Okay, so this satisfies fully. So 90 is your correct choice. How many gold coins the old woman have? 90 gold coins is what the old woman will have. Okay, how much did Geeta get in bank deposits? Geeta got 20 lakhs in bank deposits. Okay, so we can do this just by using the options and some amount of trial and error instead of trying to get an exact solution. Sometimes that works faster than trying to get an exact answer. If you get stuck anywhere with respect to preparing for LRDI, there are some free resources which are available on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist on how to prepare for LRDI. It includes which are the topics which you need to focus on, how much do you need to spend on each area. Also, we tell you how to go about picking sets in the examination. Right? So if you are not able to pick even a single set, this is a good framework to start with and build on for your CAT LRDI preparation. If you want any further assistance in terms of speaking with us, getting personal guidance, doing more practice, following a more structured path to LRDI preparation, please do look at our Ultimate LRDI course. Ten dishonest milkmen: Avik, Beena, Chandra, Dheeraj, Imani, Farhan, Gunjan, Hitesh, Indu and Jia sell milk. Okay, A to J sell milk. Okay, each of the 10 add water to the milk that they sell. Of these 10, 3 are farmers and remaining are vendors. Nice. The vendors buy milk from farmers and then sell it to individual customers. Each of the vendors buys milk from exactly one of the 3 farmers only and do not have any other sources of milk supply. Each of the 3 farmers sell milk to one or more of the 7 vendors only. Okay, so you have 3 farmers, F1, F2, F3, and you have 7 vendors, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, V7. So a farmer can sell to multiple vendors, but a vendor cannot buy from multiple farmers. That's what it says. So suppose if farmer 1 sells to V2 and V4. Now farmer 2 cannot sell to V2 or V4. He might have to go to V1 and V6. Right. Once this is done, F3 will have to go to the other 3. Right. So each vendor can buy from only one farmer, but a farmer can sell to multiple customers. Okay. And this is the data which is on amount of milk sold and the amount of water added in liters by each of them. Okay. Additional information. All transactions are completed on the same day and there was neither any leftover stock before or end of the day. So you will have a farmer who will get milk from, say, a cow. Okay, add water, sell it to a vendor. Vendor will add water and sell it to a customer. Now, the entire transaction is completed on the day. So farmer did not have any milk beforehand. He got it from the cow that day, added water, then sells it to vendor. Vendor did not have any stock, adds water to it, and sells it off, and there is no stock left at the end in either case. So everything, whatever is gotten, is sold on the same day itself with some water added. Not some, by the looks of it, quite some water added to it. Okay. Curiously, it was observed that at the end of the day, the amount of water added by each of the three farmers was equal to the sum of the amounts added by the vendors who bought from them. Okay. So suppose vendor by 1 adds 2 and vendor 4 adds 6 liters of water. Not milk, water. So farmer 1 has basically added 8. 2 plus 6, 8 liters of water when he sold to these two people. Okay. So this is like a way to actually figure out what is that. So you need to identify based on these transactions who are the vendors and who are the farmers. And if you look at the questions, all of them are who is a farmer, what is the greatest amount of water added, total quantity sold by all the vendors, and so on. Okay, so I need to figure out milk sold. You have water added. So we also know what was procured. Difference between them will be procured. For example, Avik sold 18 liters of milk, or what he calls milk, out of which 9 liters is water, which means the balance 9 is basically what he procured. The balance 9 is what he procured. Now that 9 might have water also by itself, right? But this is the amount of water he added. This is the amount of water he added. Okay, that's the only thing we can track. For example, if farmer adds some water and gives it to a vendor, we don't know how much water he adds. All we know is how much we know how much water he adds, but the vendor will not know. The vendor will know only at the end of the day using this. So vendor adds some more water and sells it. Okay. So Avik might be a vendor, might be a farmer. So the balance 18 minus 9, which is 9 liters, that might have been pure milk or milk plus water, depending on whether Avik is a vendor or a farmer. Okay, same thing happens with Beena, Chandra, etc. So we need to track these 3 data points: the amount of water added, amount of milk procured, how much of water added, and amount of milk basically sold, the final quantity which is sold. These two are given to us. So this minus this will basically be the procurement of milk. Okay, so I have tabulated this data, right? So for each of them, I know how much is the milk sold, how much is the water added. So we can figure out how much is the milk procured. And as discussed, this may not be milk. This will be milk plus water also, right? If he is a vendor. Okay, so now we know there are 3 farmers, there are 7 vendors. All the milk is sold to the vendors. These are sold to customers, right? And the last statement says the amount of water added by each of the 3 farmers was equal to the sum of water added by the vendors who bought from them. Okay, right. So if you look at the water added, some water is added by the So for example, if Avik is a vendor, he does not know how much water is added by the farmer that sold to him. He is going to add 9 liters, right? But when you add up Avik's farmer, he would have also added 9 liters for it. Suppose Avik and Beena buy from the same farmer. So Avik adds 9, Beena adds 2. So Avik's farmer and Beena's farmer would have added a combined total of 9 plus 2, 11 liters of water, right, to the milk that was sold to them. So this is double counted. The total water added is double counted basically, right? One is because of Avik and Beena, and one is because of the vendor. So if we add the total water, right, you have 11 plus 8 is 11 plus 8 is 19 plus 12 is 31 plus 3 34, 34 plus 26 is 60 plus 60 plus 8 is 68. So divided by 2. So 34 liters is added by the farmers. 34 liters is added by the vendors. This is added by the farmers. This is added by the vendors. So between the three farmers, they added 34 liters of water. Now, where do you get 34 from three of them? Right. If you take 14, 12, that's 26. We need an 8. Right. 14, 12, 8. That will add up to 34. 14, 12, 8 adds up to 34. So these two are there, 14 and 12. Right. Where is the 8? So either Imani or Chandra is a farmer. So we know these two are farmers. Right. One of them has to be a farmer. Is there any other way to get 34 with just 3 people? So suppose I don't use 14. 12, the next highest is 9. 21, I need a 13. Not possible. Right. You can do 14, 9 and 3, but that is only 26, even with the 3 people. So there is no way. 14 and 12 are definitely there, and the third one will be 8. Right. So that's the only way to get 34. Right. Now, one out of Chandra or Imani has to be a farmer, right? So, if you look at Chandra, Chandra has procured 20 liters of milk, right? If Chandra was a vendor, right, this 20 liters will come from a single person. This 20 liters has to come from single person, which means one of the farmers should have sold, one of these two farmers or a third farmer should have sold Chandra, sold Chandra 20 liters of milk. Right. Now, the only people who sell 20 or more is Hitesh and Indu. Right. Now, Chandra cannot buy from Indu because the amount of water added by Chandra is more than the amount of water added by Indu. Right. So based on this discussion, the earlier discussion, that is not possible. So Chandra cannot buy from Indu. Can Chandra buy from Hitesh? If Chandra buys from Hitesh, right, out of the 24 liters sold by Hitesh, 20 is sold to Chandra. So Hitesh has 24, out of which 14 is water. Right. This is milk. 14 is water. Now, Chandra will get 20 out of it. Right. And he adds only 8 liters of part. So there has to be someone else who Chandra will sell, who Hitesh will sell this remaining 4. Right. Some milk, some water will also be sold to that person. Right. Okay. Now, the second person has to add 6 for this to batch out. Right. He has sold 4. That's fine. But the second person has to add 6 liters of water to this. Right. So whoever buys 4, right, Gunjan, he has to add 6 liters, but Gunjan is adding 12 liters of water. Right. So 12 plus 8, this should have been 20, not 14. Right. So based on the initial discussion, we also know that Chandra cannot buy from Hitesh or Indu. There is no supplier among these 10 who can sell to Chandra. The only way Chandra can get this milk is from a cow. So Chandra also becomes a farmer. So we have identified the 3 farmers, Hitesh, Gunjan and Chandra. So we know Chandra, Gunjan, Hitesh are farmers, right? So we can answer one of the questions. Who among the following is a farmer? Avik, Indu, Dheeraj, Hitesh. Hitesh is a farmer. Okay, now let's figure out who are the vendors who buy from these farmers, right? Now, the easiest way to start is Avik and Farhan, right? Because they have odd numbers. And if you look at it, each of the farmers has added an even number of water. Right. Now, if you separate Avik and Farhan, right, this 9 and 3 of water, right, whatever you're going to, whoever is the second or third vendor who buys from these farmers, they are going to have even numbers. One odd number plus any number of even numbers is going to give you only an odd number, right? But none of the farmers add odd number of water, right? So we know for sure that Avik and Farhan buy from the same Avik and Farhan buy from the same farmer. Now we need to figure out who it is. The total water added between the two is 12. How much have they bought? 9 plus 7. 9 plus 7 is 16. So they have bought 16. They have bought 16 liters, right? Out of which 12 is water. Now it cannot be Chandra. It cannot be Chandra. It has to be either Gunjan and Hitesh. Now Gunjan matches exactly 16 and 12. Now can Hitesh, can somebody, can they buy it from Hitesh? If they buy from Hitesh, right, out of the 14 liters of Hitesh, 12 is already gone between these two. Out of 14 liters of Hitesh, 12 is already gone to Avik and Farhan, which means a third vendor has to be found who will buy the remaining, who will add the remaining 2 liters, right? Now, how much will he buy from Hitesh? Out of 24 that Hitesh sold, 16 is sold. 9 and 7 is already bought by Farhan. So the third vendor should buy 24 minus 16, 8. Right? He should buy 8 liters and add 2 liters of water. The only one who buys 8 liters is Imani, but Imani adds 8 liters of water, not 2 liters. If you look at the people who add 2 liters of water, Bina has bought only 2. Jia has bought 10. So none of them match with Hitesh. So we know Avik and Farhan are the only one who buy from Gunjan. Avik and Farhan are the only one who buy from Gunjan. So they buy from Gunjan. They are Gunjan's vendors. Farhan is also Gunjan's vendor. So we have taken care of Avik, Farhan and Gunjan. Okay, now let's try to look at Chandra. Right? Chandra has 8 water added. So his vendors combined will add 8. So if Imani buys from Chandra, basically Chandra cannot sell to anyone else. But Imani buys only 8 liters, whereas Chandra has to sell 28. So Imani cannot buy from Chandra. Imani also cannot buy from Gunjan. So Imani will buy from Hitesh. So Imani will be Hitesh. Right? We will come to this later. Now, how else can you get 8? 8 you can finish using 6, 2, or this 6 and this 2, or 2 4s, but there is only 1 4 available now. Or you can have 4, 2 and 2. Okay, now let's try all these values. So if I take 4, 2 and 2, right, that will be 8. Let's look at the total milk acquired by these people. 2 plus 14 is 16. 16 plus 10 is only 26, but Chandra sells 28. So 4 to 2 is out. 4 to 2 is out. So only thing left is 6 and 2. So this 6 is definitely there. So Indu buys from Chandra. Right, now which other 2 is required? Now when Indu buys from Chandra, Chandra has to sell 28, out of which 18 is sold to Indu. So the remaining 2 has to be coupled with 10. That has to be Jia. Right, this has to be Chandra. Right, you can verify 28 is 18 plus 10 and 6 plus 2 is 8. This matches. Whereas if you combine Chandra with, if you combine Indu with Bina, it will be 18 plus 2, only 20. This will not match. Right, so we know. So we also know that Hitesh, we know Hitesh is 3 vendors. Hitesh has Dheeraj and Bina. You can verify. Milk procured is 2 plus 14 plus 8. That's 24. And total water added is 2 plus 4 plus 8. That's 12 plus 2, 14. Right, so I have every single person's procured. We also know who is the farmer, who are the vendors. We can answer the questions. All right, let's see. Who among the following is a farmer? We have already answered this. Hitesh is a farmer. Right. Question number 2. What is the greatest amount of water in liters added by any vendor? Okay. any vendor, not these bold ones. The highest is 9 a week. Okay. Question number 3. What is the total quantity of milk in liters sold by all the vendors who buy from the farmer who adds the least amount of water? Who adds the least amount of water? Chandra adds the least amount of water. The question is, what is the total quantity of milk sold by the vendors? Total quantity of milk sold by all the vendors who buy from the farmer. Okay. Their milk sold is 24 plus 12, 30. 6, 24 plus 12, 36. Okay. And the last one, what is the minimum difference between the amount of milk with a farmer procured by a farmer, okay, amount of milk procured by a farmer, and the sum of the milks procured by the vendors who buy from him. Okay, so milk procured by Chandra is 20. The total sum of milk procured by vendors who buy from him will be 18 plus 10, 28, which is basically the milk sold by him. 18 plus 10 is 28, right? You need to find the difference between the two. So difference is basically the water added. So you need to figure out what is the lowest amount of water added by any of the 3 farmers. The lowest amount of water added is 8. Right? It's a wonderful question. I mean, it's brilliantly made. The biggest complexity is you have to match one column with the sum of other columns. Usually, in most cases, you have the columns to be added and subtracted, but you have to here match one column with another column, figure out who is a farmer, who is a vendor. Very nicely made question. In an exam situation, it's very difficult. Maybe you will probably end up leaving this question because it looks a little too crazy for your your own good, but I will completely understand if you do that. But please try this out on your own at peace. I mean, in your own free time. It's a very nice question to revise when you're preparing for the CAT examination. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video. Five friends, Ajay, Bismil, Chand, Danish, and Ishan, play a series of games where the chips are exchanged among friends on the basis of the result of each game. It was known that the number of chips brought by these friends were 26, 28, 30, 34, 36. Okay, these were the original chips, right? Not necessarily in that order. When the series of games finished, it was found that the number of chips with the 5 friends were 26, 28, 30, 34, 36, right? Not necessarily the same order. If a friend ends with more chips than what he started with, the difference is called the winning. Whereas if the friend ends with fewer number of chips than what he started with, the difference is termed as loss, right? It was further observed that number of chips brought by each friend was different. Number of chips with that each friend ended was also different. Okay, then you have given certain rules on how to distribute the chips, and then your questions are, what is the difference between the chips brought by Bismil and Danish, who ended with 28 chips? If the following is true, how many chips did the person who brought 36 chips end with? Okay, so basically you have a set of what you bring and set of what you end with, right? And you have to match these two. So it's almost like a matrix sort of an arrangement, okay? And you have these conditions to fill up the matrix, right? So I've created this matrix, right? This is what you brought, this is what you end with, and I will try to fill the person over here. So for example, if I put, say, Bismil here, right? It means Bismil brought 26 and ended with 28 chips, right? So obviously nobody can come in this 28 column, nobody can come in this 26 row, because that's what the first One says the number of chips brought by each friend was different. Similarly, the number of chips brought by each ended with was also different. So two people cannot start with 26. Two people cannot finish with 26, right? So that is given to us. So our aim is to basically finish this grid, fill up this grid. All right, let's try to fill this up. Okay, the number of chips brought by each friend was different. Number of chips that each friend ended was also different. As we discussed, no, two people cannot, you can fill only one person in a row. You can only fill one person in a column. Okay, no friend started and ended the series of games with the same number of chips. Okay, so whoever started with 26 cannot end with 26. Similarly, whoever started with 28 cannot end with 28. Whoever started with 30 cannot end with 30. Whoever started with 34 cannot end with 34. Whoever started with 36 cannot end with 36. Right. Further, it is known that the winnings nor the losses of any of the two of the five friends were the same. So if somebody won 2, say for example, you brought 26 and ended up with 28, right? So if you win 2 chips, right, your win will be 2 chips. Nobody else can end up with 2 chips extra, right? So 28 cannot finish with 30, 34 cannot finish with 36, 30 can finish with 34, right? The same is the case with losses. Even the losses cannot be the same, right? So this is something which we will take care of as we go through. Okay, Ishan ended with the same number of chips that Chand brought, and both of them ended with losses. Okay, so both of them are losses. Okay, exactly 2 friends ended with with losses. Exactly 3 friends ended with a loss, right? So since nobody starts and finishes the same, if 3 people are with losses, the remaining 2 will be with wins. So 2 people made extra chips, 3 people lost chips, right? None of the friends who won or lost 6 chips. None of the friends won or lost 6 chips, right? So 26 cannot end with 32, right? There is no 32. 28 cannot end with 34. Okay. 30 cannot end with 36. 30 cannot also end with 24 also, but there's no 24. 34 cannot end with 28, right? He cannot lose 6 chips also. 34 cannot end with 40. That is okay. 36 cannot end with 30. 36 cannot end with 30. There is no 42 over here. Okay. So this is done. Bismil was one of the 2 friends who did not make a loss. So one of the people who had wins was Bismil. Right. And both of them won more than 2 chips. So whoever wins more than 2 chips. Right. So if 26 was to end up with a win, he cannot end on 28. He has to end up with higher than 28. Similarly, 28 cannot end with 30. Right. 30 cannot end with 32. That's okay. 34 cannot end with 36. 36 cannot end with 38. That's not possible. Right. And Bismil brought more chips than Danish. Now, this is the line of, no profit, no loss. 26, 26, 27, 28, 28, 30, 30, 34, 34, 36, 36. Now, if you observe carefully, right, 36, the person who brought 36 has to make a loss. He cannot make a win, right? He will end up with lesser number of chips. So this is the person who made a loss. Similarly, 34 also has to make a loss. 34 also has to make a loss, right? There is no value above it because 34 cannot finish with 36. Bismil is one of the 2 friends who did not make a loss, and both of them won more than 2 chips, right? So that is the case. Now, two of these 3 will make a win and one of them will make a loss. Now we know 26 definitely makes a profit. 26 definitely will be winning, right? Because the values available are all above him, right? 28 can make a loss, can make a win. 30, depending on whether he ends up with 34 or 26 or 28, will be making a profit or a loss, right? So let's start with 26. 26 can either end with 30 34 or 36. Now, if 26 ends up with 30, right, he's made a profit of 4, right? So 36, the only person who can finish in 36 will be 28, and we'll have to figure out the others, right? Similarly, if 26 ends up with 34, 26 ends up with 34, he has to make a profit of 8, right? Nobody else can make a profit of 8. Now 28 there is nobody to take this. If 26 finishes here, right, there is nobody to take 36, right? The only one who can take 36 will be 28. But you'll observe that 28 cannot take 36, because if 28 takes 36, he will also end up with a profit of 8. Two people cannot end up with 8, right? So we know 26 cannot end with 34. 26 cannot end with 34. And the third scenario will be when 26 ends up with 36, and we'll have to figure out the rest. So we have two scenarios to play with. 26 ends with 30 or 26 ends with 36. Let's try to fix this. So we have the two scenarios here. One was where person who brought 26 ended up with 30. One was the person who brought 26 ended up with 36. Right. Now, this is almost like a Sudoku sort of a puzzle. You can put only one tick in across one row and one column. Across one column and one row. Okay. Now, 26 ended up with 30, so he cannot end up with 36. Which means the only person who can end up with 36 will be 28. So his profit is 4. His profit is 8. Right? The other 3 will make losses. Right? So this cannot end up here. This cannot end up here. Right. Now 30 cannot make a profit. 30 cannot make a profit because we already have 2 people who are making profit. And even if 30 makes a profit, the profit will be 4. Right, which will again be the case. So 30 cannot end with 34, which means 36 will end up with 34. So this is out. This is out. Now now we know 34 will end with 26. That's the only place left. 34 will end with 26. That's minus 8. Right. So this is out. This will be the case. So here 30 will end with 28. So this is minus 2. And this is also minus 2. Now 2 people cannot end up with the same loss. Losses of any of the 2 friends are not the same. Right? So this scenario cannot exist. This is the scenario which works. Let's see what is the case. Right. So 26 ends with 36, so he makes a profit of 10. Right, which means this does not go out. So the only place for 28 to go is 26. So he makes a loss of minus 2. Okay, now the second person to make a profit will be 30. He will end up with 34. So he makes a profit of plus 4. Right, so these 2 are out. This is out. The only one who can end up with 30 is the person who brought 34. Right. So that is minus 4. So 30 cannot end with 26. 36 cannot end with 26. So 36 will end with 28. That's minus 8. So everyone has a different profit, 10 and 2. Everyone has a different loss. Let's say 10 and 4. Loss will be minus 2, minus 4 and minus 8. So fit it. Now we need to figure out which friend ended where. We need to figure out which friend ended where. Okay, so Bismil was one of the 2 friends who did not make a loss. Right. So Bismil has to be either the person who brought 26 or the person who brought 30. Right. The last statement says Bismil brought more chips than Danish. So Bismil has to bring 30 because if he brings 26, he will end up with the lowest number of chips, who brought the lowest number of chips. So he could not have brought more than Danish. So Bismil will be 30. Danish will be one of these 2. It does not say that Danish is one of those 2 friends. Right? So Danish might be the person who brought 28 or 26. Okay. What else is known? Ishan ended up with the same number of chips that Chand brought, and both of them ended with losses. So Ishan and Chand will be from 28, 34 and 36. Ishan has to end with the same number of chips that Chand brought. So Ishan would have brought more chips than Chand. Ishan would have brought more chips than Chand. Right? So Ishan cannot be the person who bought 28. Right? Right? Ishan has to be the person who brought 34 or 36. Right? Because Chand also has to make a loss. If Ishan is here and Chand is here, Chand is not making a loss. Right? So Ishan will be either 34 or 36. Now, if Ishan is 34, right, Chand, so Ishan, it says Ishan ended with the same number of chips that Chand brought. If Ishan was at 34, Chand would be at 30, but 30 is already Bismil. 30 is already Bismil. So Ishan cannot be also 34. Ishan has to be 36. So this will be Ishan. This will be Bismil. Right. So Chand would be the chips that Ishan ended with. Ishan ended with 28, so Chand will be 28. This will be Chand. Right. And we know that Bismil brought more chips than Danish. Right. We have already fitted Chand as one of the person who brought lower than Bismil. Right. So the other person will be Danish. Now that leaves us with the last person, the person who brought 34, Ajay. Ajay is the person who brought 34. Right. So we know everyone how much he brought. We know how much he ended up with. They can basically answer any question that we want. Okay. I've arranged this. Let's do this. What is the difference between the chips brought by Bismil and Danish? Bismil brought 30. Danish brought 26. Difference is 4. Who ended up with 28 chips? 28 chips is Ishan. None of these. Which of the following statements is true? Danish finished with 28 chips. Danish finished with 36, so out. Ajay's winnings were 4 chips. Ajay actually made a loss, so out. Ishan did not bring 30 chips. That is true. Ishan actually brought 36. That is correct. And the last one, how many chips did the person who brought 28 chips end with? 36 chips. The person who brought 36 ended up with 28. Right, job done. Now, it's a pretty nice question. It's not very difficult. It's a moderate level question, moderate to slightly difficult level question. The key point was to actually figure out this matrix, right? Reduce the number of cases as much as possible, right? Try to make sure that you don't have to do too many trial and error. And once you have to do the trial and error also, you can actually do that in a reasonably easy manner. Then there is a slight sting in the tail at the end where you have to actually figure out who brought how much. Right, in an exam situation, it can take you about 12 minutes to solve this. That completes this session on must-do sets for CAT LRDI preparation. Please do let us know in the comments below how you liked this. Please do share this with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, or you can connect with us on WhatsApp and Telegram groups. The links are all available in the description of this particular video. If you are facing any problem with CAT LRDI sets, you can look at our YouTube channel playlist on how to prepare for CAT LRDI. If you want any specialized, personalized attention on LRDI preparation in the most structured manner, you can also look at our Ultimate LRDI course. This is the most comprehensive course which is available in the market. Till we meet again the next time, goodbye and all the best.